So I put this off for everybody else. All right, so we get that. I also said that today I was going to spend the bulk of my time on coaching people and advising them on the two big assignments that I do. But before we get to that, the other four, the assignments are working for you? I'm asking.
Yes, they're working for me.
Good, because I was a little worried. This 3 week thing is difficult because this is a
Yes,
10
it's
week
very
course.
condensed.
Yeah, and I'm giving you folks a lot more work I would ordinarily give a group. Seriously, I am, because I don't see any other way to accomplish, the course goals.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it's got to be what it's got to be. So you have paid for a 3 week course,
Hmm.
and, but you really want a 10 week syllabus. So I have to make some decisions about who goes on the kidney machine, who doesn't. And I've done that as we move along. So I've shaved those assignments because the professor who let me look at his syllabus, Dr. Delgazo, uh, had a lot more assignments, but it was a 10 week course.
Yeah,
So I did
me
what I
too.
did with those two things. I kept this silly midterm. I've never given a midterm in my life, but I am going to give a midterm, and which is due Sunday. And again, I'm not crazy about the due dates, except that if somebody has an issue with not being able to get it in on time, that they just let me know in advance so I can work with that. So there's a midterm. I think it's due Sunday night or midnight on Monday or something like that. And then there's a week later. There's a letter, 1,000 word assignment, 1,000 word paper. So which is the one that you think we're going to do both? But which is the one do you think you might want some quick coaching on?
I just went over the midterm. I read it over. That's pretty clear. I understand that. It's
Good.
just for the final, maybe choosing a topic.
All right, we got it. We came to the right place. Because I am really good at. I really am very good at this because I work for St. John's too,
Okay.
and I'm in the doctoral. I teach in the doctoral program there.
Oh, okay.
So I mentor. There was a time when I was mentoring 30 students at a time with doing their dissertations.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that took a piece out of everybody, but it had to be at the time. So I'm really good at giving people ideas. So tell me what you're thinking about, and then we'll go back and look at the assignment itself.
I know in all the discussions we consistently talk about coaching and athletic experience. I was thinking about maybe doing a coach such as like Vince Lombardi, John Wooden, or I was maybe thinking of doing like a military general from World War II, such as and figuring out something along those lines with the military general, making tough decisions
Okay.
like strategy as well.
Well, I like the. Are we getting a double feedback now? Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yeah. Okay. I like the John Wooden part, or the
Yes.
Lombardi part. Actually, I'm looking
Yeah.
for the paper. So I like. Well, how about this? And I don't know. I don't know where. I'm not sure where you could find this. I'm sure you can, but is there or are there um, in policing?
Hmm.
Is there a team approach in policing that you or a leader in policing whose team approaches you'd like to examine?
Not that I really know of. I know for myself, I try to take like a team approach with the cops that I have.
Right.
I meet with them every morning, blah, blah, blah. But I don't know like anybody in particular, so I kind of take some of my coaching stuff and
Well,
combined it, but I don't know like of a police figure that would be.
this just comes to mind. I don't have any special. I'm hearing feedback. I don't know where I'm hearing. I don't have any expertise in this specifically, but I mean some of the and I don't know any TA commissioners at all. The TA commissioner is different from the PA
Yes,
commissioner, I imagine, right? But
absolutely. Yeah.
okay, so some of the uh, more recent PA commission, police department commissioners have been very much admired. No,
That is true.
I mean, give me a name if you have anybody in the back of your mind.
I You know what? I really don't.
All right, I don't want you
Um,
to lose your mind on this. Okay, then let it roll.
yeah, I'm
We haven't got
kind
enough time to, we haven't got enough time to do tons of
of
research on this. So we don't have one. I'm just trying to think, is there anybody?
gotta.
The only one I could think of was a guy who went to jail.
Mhm,
Well, was
mm.
it Carrick? Did he go to
Oh
jail?
yeah,
But
I
so
think
he,
he was the police commissioner,
yeah, with Giuliani.
Giuliani. Yeah, back in the 90s.
Yeah, but then he went to jail, didn't he?
Yes, I know. There's like Ray Kelly is a famous
Ray
police
Kelly?
commissioner.
Actually,
Braden as well.
actually, it's funny. I have an idea, but I'm not going to press it at you at all. My my wife's cousin's husband, we're good friends,
Mhm.
is was commander. He wasn't a commissioner. He may have made assistant commissioner in the police force. He left, I think, right after Giuliani. He hated Giuliani, but he now he's a professor of police science over in Suffolk Community.
Okay.
And if I said to him, I got a guy who'd like to talk to you, he would talk to you until your ears fell off. But you haven't got enough time for that. No, so we'll save that for a rainy day. So
Okay.
let's get practical. So let's talk military or let's talk athletics. So Lombardi and Wooden. Although I discovered Wooden as a leader a lot later than most people. I finally read that Pyramids book about
Hmm.
maybe 4 or 5 years ago, and actually I take it to heart a great deal. But the other guy would be see, Lombardi is an example of a team guy, no question. Man. His style on paper sounds so autocratic, but you can certainly take a look at that if you want. I actually just finished reading, last year, I guess, Lombardi's biography, which is pretty interesting. I don't know if it particularly captured his leadership style, but you can kind of pick it up in the book. But it's a very readable book, but you got a week to read the book. You know what I mean? So
Okay. Yeah.
let's be real. So yeah, so if you want to go with an athletic coach, that's fine. But what you're going to need to do before you do that, two things. All right. Here's how I see this. You're going to you're going to have to get your arms around. Let me pull the book up. You're going to have to get your arms around the chapter in the book about leadership styles. Give me a second, and I'm going to dig it up.
Sure.
Take me a minute. I don't like to teach from textbooks, but this book is okay. It's better than most. Okay, I don't have the page in front of me, and I don't even have the chapter. But I'm looking at. Let me find the chapter first, so you don't lose your mind. Okay, this is important. This actually goes back to Megan's question. It's chapter 4, leadership. Okay, and then it talks about different kinds of teams, self-managed leadership and gender. Then it talks about theories of leadership, and there's several here along the lines of what I just said. Okay, one I'm going to just show you in a moment, just to give you some baseline. There's different kinds of ways to look at things. I'm not going to give you a whole lecture on it in the time that we're together, but there's a whole sorts of different kinds of leadership traits. And then, I don't have page numbers on this, but within that same chapter, there's a piece called 5 Practices of Exemplary Leaders. And they're very obvious. Model the way, which is what you probably do every day. Inspire a shared vision. Take your own temperature on that for a second, how well you do that. Challenge the process. Enable others to act, and encouraging the heart. Now that's right of somebody or two people called Kouzes and Posner, and they wrote a book that pretty much speaks to those 5 exemplary characteristics. Now you have a model. I'm giving you the Kouzes and Posner's model. Like I think we're going to do some of this next week, as a matter of fact. Now, what I want you to do is to use that model to assess whichever leader you would want to take a look at. But if it's, so if you want to go with a coach, you can go with the president too, or someone else.
Okay.
If you, that's fine. But use that model insofar as they model teams. Now I'm going to be bad with you, and don't take it personally. I'm going to be bad. For example, Trump is a unilateral leader who pretends, but no, I take that back. He's not as unilateral as he wants you to think that he is, because my understanding of his style is that he thinks of an idea, and then he basically announces, "This is my idea. I'm going to do this, this, and this." But then what he does is he goes back and he talks to other people. Now the other people he talks to, depending on the situation and depending on who's going to kiss his butt, which is really part of his issue, is if he's just going to talk to his yes men or women, they're going to tell him that he's wonderful and tell him that his idea is the greatest that's ever been made. But when he's smart enough not to do that, and when he went to people with great expertise in the issue, let's take foreign policy as an example. Supposedly, right after he lost the election, he was thinking about bombing Iran. He was all set to push the button to bomb Iran. This is just a quick example. And instead of talking to the yes men, he talked to his military guys, he talked to some foreign policy people, and they said, that's a terrible mistake. And he yanked it back. He didn't do it. Now, he doesn't advertise that he didn't do it, but what he did was he consulted, he listened, and he changed his mind. Now, this isn't like you, when you got to decide, something that's, life risking in 30 seconds. You don't call time out and freeze everybody and take everybody's temperature. You do it according to your training, okay? And how well you've trained and how well the guys who work for you recognize your expectations, work within those expectations. But that's pretty much how Trump works. He's unilateral to a fault, but he will consult and then reject if he feels like he has the right to reject it. Bush, the second Bush, did something. For example, you were way young when this happened. When he invaded Iraq, we won the war in Iraq pretty quickly, but what we kind of almost lost was the war in Iraq after the war was over. All kinds of insurgencies, all kinds of many of the veterans we have now were maimed in the counterattacks that took place after the war was over, as an example. And most people were screaming at Bush at that point, "Get out! Get the guys and put them in the next plane and get them out of town." And he wouldn't do it. So he heard the points of view. Because he was the president, he had the P on his chest. He said, "No, I'm going to send more troops in." And even though a lot of people don't want to give him credit for that, it actually worked. He put the insurgency down. Great price to individual soldiers, but he stopped the insurgency. Even though he took advice, he didn't act on. He didn't take the advice. He listened to advice, he didn't act on it. And presidents get paid to make the decisions in the end. So on the one hand, I'm not even going to fool Trump because that's his style. Maybe he's coming from his business world background, as much as Bush did what he did from a political background, more so than Trump may be used to, clearly. So, but here's the issue: you're going to take the model, which I just gave you, this Kouzes and Posner. If I were you, I'd do a little bit more research than the book offers. There's plenty of books or research articles about this to get a handle on what they're about. If you don't like Kouzes and Posner, I can give you some other people to look at too. But take a look at chapter 4. Because there's some good ones in here. It's contingency theory, which I know you would like. That's right up your alley as a sergeant. And there's I'll give you one more before I lose you too. If I can figure out how to use
Sounds good.
use that. So, and then you do your research on whichever coach you want to use or a politician that you want to use. To recognize what's leadership styles. It's almost like you're answering that chapter 3 question, that question number 3 that I just explained to Megan. Use that model to work it through. Let me see if I can figure something out. If I can just do it, I'm going to try to show you something. I think I know how to do this by now. I'm talking to myself. Talking to myself. I should know how to do this, and I can't figure out how to do it. It's in chat. All right, now I'm going to do this a different way. Give me a second. All right, making a little chart here. Just give me a second. Okay, I'm going to share the screen. Okay. Now, just work with me. See this up and down here on my left? See where my cursor is going?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so that is the supportive behavior axis. High for support, high support, low support. Right up here. High support. And down here, all right, low support. Now going across this way, I'll write it over here, is directive support, high to low. I should say low to high. Well, so going left to right, the right-hand side is high and the left-hand side is low. So if I were in this box, you would see a leader who lives in, situationally, contingency-wide, lives here. I have a feeling you might live here a lot, where you give high support to your guys, okay? I'm sorry, got the wrong word. You have directive behavior. You have high, you get very intense command decision behavior here, and you give high support.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go to the other side, down here. If you give them low directions, so do what you want, and you give them no support, you have chaos.
Yep.
So you'll see this when you look at the chapter. Again, I don't have the page in front of me, but it's on the contingency theory. In other words, whatever the situation demands is how you respond, how you, the leader, respond.
Mm-hmm.
So this is out of Cruz's and Posner too, actually. That is Blanchard, I take it back. So this is an interesting way to look at things too. So I'm only showing it to you, but you can rewatch the video if you want.
Okay.
Or you can see read about it in the chapter. So take one of those models of exemplary model theory that appeals to you, and then pull together your um, the leader whom you want to examine, or leaders if you want to do that too. But if it's 1,000 words, it doesn't sound like it sounds like that's 1,000 pages, but it's not. You're going to write 1,000 words at one on side behind your back. And what you can also do, and feel free to, and this goes for the people who aren't physically online with me now, but who will watch this video, I hope, later, that if anyone needs to be coached or advised, all they have to do is email me, say, Dr. B, I'm thinking about doing this, that, and the other thing. Okay? Does that help?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Makes sense.
No, I'm glad. There's another one for Hersey and Blanchard that I want to show you one more thing. I got,
Okay.
I got carried away with some of this stuff. I have to tell you. I just figured out how I can do this a different way. Undo this and then do it again. Now I'm going to do a whiteboard, which is what I wanted to do before. Can you see that?
Yes, I can.
All right. So now this is what I wanted to do before. It's a different quadrant thing. Okay. Now this doesn't apply, I don't think, to pretty sure to what you do, but this is more really for those people who are in schools. So this axis, the y-axis, talks to, I have to remember it now, relationships. Okay. I can't spell this thing with the way it is. And this axis, the x-axis, speaks to, structure. You see what I'm trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
So in this axis, if I have high relationships and high structure, it's probably the ideal situational approach. In other words, the people you care about, the people they care about you. Okay, but they also know that you've set the parameters for what needs to happen. If I go to this quadrant down here, now I've got high relationships, but low structure.
Mm-hmm.
No direction. Then they all like each other, and they all go to the bar on Friday night.
Yep.
Okay, but it's not conducive to being effective. From low relationship and low structure, it's chaos again. It's a mess.
Mm-hmm.
If I have, you answer this one for me. If I have high relationships, but low structure, what do I have here?
You have a good relationship, but not a effective work environment. Then there's no
Oh,
structure to it.
there you go. Now, like a Vince Lombardi, he may not be so worried about relationships, although apparently his players loved him.
Mm-hmm.
And Belichick too. I don't think they invite Belichick to their pajama parties, but they respect him.
Yeah.
And they certainly know what their parameters are. And there are other guys who have been like Lucy. I'm thinking of the guy who coached Cleveland Browns last year. He didn't know what he was doing, and it was basically a country club. And that team, this coach took over. It was Stefanski took over that same club, and now they're playing. They beat the Steelers Saturday or Sunday, and now they're going to go. I'm not sure who they're playing. Kansas City, I think. That should be interesting. So these kinds of models give you something to think about in terms of leadership structure, which makes me think next Monday I got to think more about this. So you
Okay.
can use any of these models. I'm just giving you a couple to think about. Actually, I think this is out of I can't remember the guy who created this. I'll think of it in a second. Begins with a B. No, it's not Blanchard. Oh, you ready? It's Vroom. No, it's not that one. I think it's Vroom. VRO. I can't write with this way. VROOM. I could be wrong about that. Oh no, it's Blanchard. I take it back. It's Blanchard.
Okay.
Okay, and this is about what they call. I teach leadership, basically everywhere I go, more than I teach about teams. Although I did my doctorate on team processes, is about what they call the human relations school of leadership, which dominates research about leadership not just in schooling, but in most every place, including policing, I would imagine, to some extent.
Mhm.
I have a good friend of mine who's a principal, just retired as a principal. He's also a colonel in the National Guard. And sometimes I think he's a colonel who happens to be a principal. And sometimes I wonder, I ask him this, are you a principal who happens to be a colonel? What are you? And he doesn't even know himself sometimes. I think he's more of a colonel than happens to be a principal. But I've asked him a couple of times. So I said, so you're in combat. He was never in combat with his guys, but I said, do you look for input? And he goes, yeah, we do. Military wants input all the time. But in the end, it's the guy with the stripe on his shoulder who says,
Mhm.
go get the machine gun. And I'm sure that's pretty much, policing, whether it's TA or NYPD, is really a paramilitary organization, as you know.
Mhm.
So, so some of the same principle, the LES principles apply. Okay, so I won't belabor you anymore. But have I given you an idea to work with?
Yes, you made it. All makes sense, and I appreciate it. Made it clear for me.
I appreciate that you appreciate,
Thank you.
and it's my pleasure to meet you. And if you think of something, just drop me an email, and I'll be on
I
with you.
will.
I'll
Thank
respond.
you.
My pleasure. And I'll see you in Oakdale someday, one of these days.
Perfect.
Where'd you move in Oakdale?
Over an idle hour area.
Idle Hour. Where the hoity-toity people live. Yeah. I was a principal over at Boston,
Okay.
and I taught in OBJ. It was OBJ then. Now it's OBMS.
Yeah,
How
my
old are you?
wife actually went there.
She went there?
Yeah, when she was a kid. Probably that was what, the mid '90s until second grade.
Idle Hour?
No, Boston. You said.
Boston. Well, when did I was then. She was there when I was there. What was her last name?
Schwartz.
Doesn't ring a bell, be honest with you. But she probably would, if the second grade, she may not remember me, but I was her principal once.
That's funny. Small world.
Yeah, that was a very good building. And Idle was a great building too.
Thank you.
Okay, doc. So nice to talk to you. I'm going to record this for everybody else. And again, feel free to give me a call or email me if you have a problem.
I will. Thank you. I appreciate all the help.
My pleasure. Congratulations again.
Thank you.
Bye bye.